thanks again for coming out. As always, we always appreciate the coverage and interest in our program. And I'll do something new this week. I'll talk about last week's game and talk about this week's game. Sound good?
Way to switch things up.
We'll mix it up.
There you go.
All right, good win against Akron. We got off to a slow start. I think a lot of it, for that reason, is credit to Akron. They came out with a good plan and executed it well, and we didn't execute well. Certainly the positive was I'm really proud of how we responded. We didn't panic. I saw some real leadership in our program step up. The way guys were talking on the sidelines, there wasn't finger pointing. Again, there wasn't a sense of panic going on when we were down 14-3. And then really the last 3 quarters, we executed much better. And I think it's great, you know, when a team finds the ability to come back. I think you don't want to go through it all the time, but when it's over and it's done and it's happened, you can really reflect back. And I think we showed some resiliency in coming back the way we did. But I'd also like to see us start faster. I think, you know, in 3 of our wins this year, Tulsa, Kent, and you know, in Akron, it's a little bit in the same script that we don't start out fast and then we play really well in the second half. And we certainly want to come out of the gates playing better than we did. Next up, we have Massachusetts. I think Massachusetts is an improved team. You know, obviously people are going to look at their record and debate that. They have had an absolutely brutal schedule. You know, they played the Big Ten champion Wisconsin, the Big 12 champion Kansas State, and a very good, much improved SEC team in Vanderbilt. And you know, I look at last year's team, and I think they're better than they were a year ago. They have a really good defensive front. Last year, we really struggled to move the ball against them. It was one of our, I told our team that we were so good against them last year that we almost averaged 2.5 yards a carry. So last year in the game, I think we had 37 carries for about 94, 95 yards. Completely relied on our defense to win the game. And they got a lot of guys back. They were young in the secondary last year. We didn't throw the ball against them very well a year ago either. And they've got almost everybody back in the secondary. They got some young corners that are good players. I think their safeties are active. But again, we really struggled blocking them a year ago, and they've got a lot of guys back. Offensively, they're big up front. I think they're still trying to find their quarterback. They've gone between the 2 different guys Doyle and Wegson. But they've got probably as good a tight end as anybody in the conference. They've got a very dynamic wideout and Sharp, and they've got a good stable of backs. So again, I think this is an improving team. It's a MAC East game, which we always consider a championship game, and it's a huge game. We're home again 3 weeks in a row, which has been nice. It's homecoming, and again, we got a lot in the line, so we're looking forward to it.
Can you talk about the progressions that Sean Joplin's made, you guys leading receiver by yardage by a lot? What have been the improvements that he's made, and how impressed have you been with him?
You know, I'm glad to finally say that, because for 4 years, you guys have been asking me, you know, when is Sean Joplin? When is Sean Joplin? And I said all along he was getting better, but he right now, you'd say, is our most productive receiver. He's really played well. He's made big plays. The touchdown he made before the half, some of the 3rd down catches he made. You know, the 3rd and 14 that we converted before we went up 17-14 was as big a play as there was in that football game. And I think that play, you know, that one play kind of shows Sean's development. 3 years ago, he would have ran the wrong route. 2 years ago, he would have run the wrong route but wouldn't have gotten the sticks. A year ago, he might have done that but not caught it. And that's not, you know, it's 3rd and 14. You have to adjust your route. He ran a perfect route at the exact depth to get the 1st down and made a fingertip catch. And he's made a lot of those plays for us. And the touchdown before the half was a huge play. And he's starting to come into his own. And it's fun to watch. As I've said from the get-go, I mean, he's a great kid that works hard. And you always like to see guys like that have success. So I'm really proud of Sean, and hopefully he can keep it going for another couple of months here.
What's been the biggest reason for it, though? Has there been anything that you can pinpoint that's been the biggest difference?
I mean, I think when Sean came out of high school, I think he was he had the skill set to be a receiver, but he was probably a more natural track athlete and a more natural basketball player. And football sometimes takes time to learn. He's had the skill set, but learning coverages and how a defensive back plays you and how to release people, it just doesn't, for some players they just pick it up. For others they really got to work at it. And Sean's worked at it. And maybe he could have done this a little bit more last year if we had thrown the ball more. So his numbers probably would have been a little better if we wouldn't have been as conservative as we were. But he's doing a great job for us. So I'm happy. And I don't know why it's taken 4 years, but I'm glad it's happened because he's playing well now.
The first target to him in the game against Akron ended up in a drop, and he's still saying he overcame that. Can you talk about the mental development to overcome that?
Yeah, it's funny. I was watching last year's UMass game. And if you remember, very early in the game, we threw a bomb to him down the left sidelines, and it went right through his hands. And he was a basket case for the next half hour. It was almost inconsolable that he dropped the ball. And that's part of playing this game, is you got to come back and play the next play, put the last one behind you. And again, he's grown a lot in the last year. And not just the technique part, the physical stuff, but I think the mental part of it too. That the second play of the game, we threw a slant to him, and it was right in the numbers, and he dropped it. It was a perfectly thrown ball. But he came back and made a lot of plays after that were very big plays for us. So, yeah, he's Jop, and he'll always be Jop, and that's just kind of his charm. But he's really grown up a lot and become a much more mature and a much more mentally tough football player for us.
You mentioned the leadership shown on the sideline. Was that a combination of like the seniors and the coaches together, that nobody panicked, or did a certain person step up for each unit and talk, or how did that go, or you were watching the game and didn't know?
No, I mean, I just see reactions on the sideline. When the defense comes off 2 drives in a row and they've given up 2 touchdowns, are they dropping their helmets? Are they walking off the field? Or is the conversation positive? And it was positive. It was guys like Gabe Martin. Guys, we're better than this. We got to step up and start making plays. It wasn't blaming the corner for getting beat or questioning this guy for being in the wrong gap. And sometimes when you're on losing teams, they have that reaction. They want to blame someone else instead of bring people together. And that's when teams have to come together, is when things get tough. When you're doing well, it's easy to be a team, and it's easy to like each other and support each other. And I thought it was very positive for us, down 14-3. The conversation wasn't any different than if we were winning the game. We were trying to fix the problems. I think as coaches, you try to fix the problem, whether it's schematic or whether it's technique. But to a certain degree, the players have to then grab that torch and carry it to one another, and that happened. Chief was great with the O-line. We gave up 6 sacks in the first half, and those guys weren't blaming the tackles, and sometimes it was, the center had half a man, the guard had half a man, and they both kind of left, and it could have been, well, I thought he was there. They're all saying, hey, it's on me, and they talk about it, and they fix it so it doesn't happen again. I think that's the sign of a mature team. Now, you don't want it to happen to begin with, and some of those sacks never should have happened. The one sack, we were doubling the guy. And the one guy who had the inside piece of him went too far inside, and the one guy that had the outside piece of him went too far outside. But even at halftime, Alex Bear got the whole offense together. Guys, they're not stopping us. Okay, we're better than this. And they were challenging each other in a positive way, rather than getting on each other in a negative way. And, certainly as the head coach, I love that. You're thinking about what to say to these guys at halftime to get them going and to try to, and you don't have to say anything, they're saying it to each other. And again, I don't want to fall behind again, but I think there's some confidence to be gained that if you do fall behind, you're capable of coming back because you did it.
Is there a cause you can see for that falling behind? And also, if you talk a little bit about the solution, is it doing better, fixing problems, better planning?
I think some of our guys kind of start the game feeling their way through the game. How good is the guy they're going against? I know our tackles, every week they go into the game. It's a new experience for them. They're redshirt freshmen. They've only played 4 football games. Akron's ends were good, and they figured that out after the first series. And, you know, so instead of setting with the proper technique and you know, using their hands properly, I think they got a little overwhelmed by the matchup, and then instead of doing things the way they're coached, they kind of tried to improvise on their own, and they only made the problem worse. And sometimes with guys like that, you just got to settle them down and trust the technique and trust what you've been coached. And then they went in and did that. And it's, again, it's football. You got to give credit to Akron. Akron, you know, they had a great double move. It was the same play Indiana hit on us. Exact same route combination that, you know, they got the one cornered Indiana, they got another one this week. So they beat us. That was one big play. And then the drive, you know, really it was 2 pass interferences, which led, so they scored 14 points on their first 2 drives, had probably over a third of their offense or 40% of their offense on the first 2 drives. And it was one big play and 2 pass interferences. You know, so you don't blow the whole thing up and say, geez, we're playing poorly. One guy got beat at a position that he can't get beat. And then it was 2 really bad pass interference calls. And so, you know, I don't think the whole thing was broken. We just didn't execute at critical spots.
How much better is this offense just because of Matt Johnson? I mean, the numbers are obviously much better, but how much better is the offense just because he's in there?
Well, you know, I think if Matt Shields was in there too, I think we'd be better offensively. Certainly Matt Johnson has given us a spark. And his ability to make plays with his feet, his ability to improvise. A lot of times when plays break down, we're now getting positive plays. But I was asked this question in preseason camp, can you get better on offense? And I said, I'd expect to, because you know, you have all these young wideouts that played as freshmen. I think Joplin's better, second-year starter. I think Chris Gallen's better, second-year starter. I think Ryan Burbrink's better. Certainly Ronnie Moore has given us a speed dimension we haven't had. The tight ends, Alex Baer and Tyler Beck, I think are both better. I think our offensive line is better. Travis Green has made people miss at tailback. And, you know, as good of a player as Anton was, Travis has really given us some big dynamic plays back there. And, you know, so I think we're also better. We're better around the quarterback. And I don't want to take away from what Matt Johnson has done, because Matt Johnson has played really well. But it's not just him. I think overall we're better at a lot of positions, and I think we're executing, and I think we're a lot more physical up front as well.